Science, what is now a core subject that all students must master to a certain degree, has not always been considered a subject worth teaching to the masses. In fact, science has only been taught in public schools for a little over 100 years. Before that, teachers mainly focused on the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. But how exactly did science education get to where it is today? Well, in the mid-1800s, scientific discoveries started to flourish and the field of science gained public support. So many scientists and academics like Charles Darwin and Charles W. Eliot began to push for schools to include science lessons. They felt that being knowledgeable about science would help students be more educated citizens as adults. Thanks to their persistence, science was gradually incorporated into school curricula during the late 1800s.
As science was beginning to make its way into the curriculum, goals became controversial. Some felt that science education should only prepare those students planning to continue their education through college, while others felt education should benefit all students, regardless of future educational plans. In order to settle this debate, the Committee of 10 was appointed in 1892 by the National Education Association to create a standard curriculum for high schools. The committee was led by Charles W. Eliot, the president of Harvard University. There were 3 conferences solely devoted to science. The Conference on Physics, Chemistry, and Astronomy agreed that college entrance exams should test knowledge on chemistry, physics, but not astronomy. Curricula should be lab-based, and students should take chemistry before physics so that the student can improve on math skills required for physics. The Conference on Natural History discussed topics such as botany, zoology, and physiology. They decided that physiology should focus on health and hygiene. Either botany or zoology should be required for college entrance exams, but not both. Therefore, it was up to the teacher which should be taught. Physiology should be taught from a textbook, but zoology and botany should be based on observations only. Finally, the Conference on Geography agreed that geography, which was similar to modern-day ecology, should only be offered as an elective class in high school that could be counted towards college, but is not required. Unfortunately, many of the schools around this time were small and did not have the resources or money to follow through with these new ideas. Regardless, it was after the Committee of 10 that definite subjects in order were brought to science education, and as a result, the country saw rapid enrollment rates in the sciences between 1890 and 1910. As more students were going to and finishing school at the turn of the 20th century, less emphasis was placed on the education of individuals, and more emphasis was placed on education for the good of the community. So, in 1918, the Commission on the Reorganization of Secondary Education, another group appointed by the National Education Association, was appointed to try and revise the old curriculum. The Commission founded their ideas on 2 beliefs. 1, that since more of the general population was attending school, the overall intelligence of the student body would be lower than that of past students, and 2, it is unfair to require college preparatory work if not all students were destined for college. Part of the commission was the Science Committee. Science became especially important during this time because it helped warn students about alcohol, safe sex, illness, and disease. The United States saw a huge increase in technology, industry, sanitation, and economic development during this time as well, due to the Industrial Revolution, so science was becoming more and more practical in everyday life. The committee thought that there should be ways to connect science to real life and relate science to real-world applications so that a science education would be beneficial to all. One way to do this was to create themes in science. Another was to vary the types of learning in a science classroom by keeping labs but also adding lecture, teacher demonstrations, field trips, projects, and recitations. According to the committee, the old method required too much time in laboratory, which was only effective when the students took an active interest in the topics they were studying. Labs were also very expensive and took up a lot of class time. With all these revisions, a general flow of science classes was established: general science, biology, chemistry, and physics. General science was considered to be the beginning point of all other sciences and included an overview of the Earth. It was created because it gave some students the opportunity to learn science before dropping out, since the dropout rate was pretty high. Biology was created to be a combination of zoology, botany, physiology, and hygiene, since these topics were most relevant, therefore popular, at the time. Chemistry and physics were both controversial because they were difficult subjects and they were hard to relate to real life. Due to the difficulty of the subjects, they seemed to be mostly for college-bound students. General science and biology classes saw an increase in the number of students enrolled, but chemistry and physics saw a slow decline as the country headed through the 1930s and into World War II.
While the World War II era saw a general decline in student enrollment in science classes, public support for science education skyrocketed once everyone realized that important scientific discoveries, like penicillin and the atomic bomb, helped win the war. The 1950s was the golden age for science education. Many educators felt it was time to ditch progressive education and get back to basics. In the wake of the Cold War and the successful launch of Sputnik, America felt threatened by the Soviets' technological superiority. If the US was ever going to be superior again, they needed to refocus on math, science, and technology education. Thus, in 1958, Congress passed the National Defense Education Act, which provided federal funds for strengthening elementary and secondary math and science programs. The next big wave of science education reform came in the 90s with the standards movement and the formation of the National Science Education Standards in 1996. The standards suggest general guidelines for K-12 science education, but the states still have the final say about what their students must know. The national standards place more emphasis on relating science to the real world and learning through inquiry rather than memorizing facts. Who knows what the future might hold for science education reform? Are we headed toward true national standards so that every child in the country gets the same science foundation? Will we ever resolve the debate between teaching evolution or creationism? With No Child Left Behind emphasizing math and reading, science is being neglected. The US is lagging in science scores, ranking only 23rd among the 65 countries tested. If we want future generations to be able to keep up with the global community and be scientifically superior, the way we educate our students will have to change, and soon.